Hi, welcome back. Most people think pocket change is worthless. But what if I told you that some U.S. quarters made after 1950 are worth thousands? Even over 100,000? Stay with me, because you might be holding a fortune without even knowing it. First up, 1950 D. Washington quarter, high-grade full head. The year was 1950. America stood at a crossroads of history. The echoes of World War II still resonated in the hearts of millions. But the country was on the brink of unprecedented prosperity. The baby boom was reshaping the fabric of society. Suburban neighborhoods were expanding rapidly, and the American dream gleamed with an intensity that had rarely been seen before. Amidst this vibrant atmosphere, tucked away in Denver, Colorado, inside the sturdy walls of the Denver Mint, a small, unassuming coin was being struck. Little did anyone know at the time that this coin, the 1950 D. Washington quarter, would one day captivate the hearts of collectors across the world. To truly understand the significance of this coin, we must first journey back nearly 2 decades earlier. In 1932, the United States sought to commemorate the 200th birthday of its first president, George Washington. The decision was made to replace the standing Liberty quarter, which had adorned the coin since 1916, with a brand new design honoring Washington. John Flanagan, a renowned sculptor, was chosen to design the new quarter. His portrayal of George Washington, facing left with a calm and steady gaze, became one of the most recognizable and enduring images in American coinage history. Originally intended as a one-year commemorative, the design's popularity ensured its place in American pockets for generations. By 1950, the Washington quarter had become an everyday part of American life. The Denver Mint was assigned the task of producing millions of these quarters to meet the country's growing economic demands. That year, the Denver facility struck 21,075,600 Washington quarters, each bearing the small D mint mark beneath the wreath on the coin's reverse. These coins circulated freely, used for everything from buying candy, bars and movie tickets to paying for gasoline and jukebox, songs that filled the air with the tunes of a new generation. But hidden within these millions of quarters were a select few that would become the stuff of numismatic legend. The key to their rarity lies not in their mintage numbers, but in the quality of their strike. The term full head refers to Washington. Quarters that exhibit an exceptional level of detail in George Washington's hair, temples, and forehead. On these coins, every curl and strand is crisp and fully defined, revealing the sculptor's intricate craftsmanship in all its glory. Achieving such precision was no easy task. The Denver Mint's machinery, while capable, often prioritized speed and efficiency over flawless detail. Dies would wear down, pressures would fluctuate, and alignment would occasionally falter, resulting in the vast majority of 1950 D quarters exhibiting weaker strikes. Only a fortunate few, struck under near-perfect conditions, emerged with the sharp, complete details that define a full-head specimen. The minting process itself was a delicate dance of precision and power. Blank planchets, composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, were punched from large sheets of metal. These blanks were then softened through annealing, polished to a shine, and carefully fed into massive coining presses. The obverse die imprinted Washington's noble profile, while the reverse die stamped the proud heraldic eagle, clutching arrows and olive branches, a timeless symbol of America's readiness for both war and peace. The combination of craftsmanship, machinery, and chance determined whether a coin would emerge as an ordinary example or a numismatic masterpiece. The world of 1950 was a complex one. Internationally, tensions were rising as the Cold War began to cast its long shadow. The Soviet Union's successful detonation of its first atomic bomb in 1949 had ignited an arms race that would define global politics for decades to come. Meanwhile, the Korean War loomed just months away. Despite these global tensions, everyday Americans found solace in the simple joys of suburban life, booming industries, and the promise of a brighter future. Quarters like the 1950 D were exchanged countless times in diners, gas stations, and corner stores, often without a second thought to their future historical significance. Among the 1950 D Washington quarters, several minor varieties and errors add an additional layer of intrigue for collectors. While the coin is not widely known for dramatic errors like major doubled dies, Sharp-eyed numismatists have identified multiple repunched mint mark RPM varieties. These occur when the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, resulting in visible doubling or shadowing. Additionally, some off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks have surfaced, creating unique and sometimes highly valuable collectibles for those who cherish mint errors. When it comes to collector value, the 1950D Washington quarter offers a fascinating study in rarity. In typical circulated condition, these quarters are primarily valued for their silver content, fetching between 7 to 10, however. High-grade examples, particularly those graded MS66 or higher with full head designation, are in an entirely different league. An MS66 full head example can command prices ranging from $1,000 to $2,500, depending on its eye appeal and luster. Ultra-rare MS67 full head specimens, among the absolute finest known, have sold at prestigious auction houses like Heritage Auctions for as much as $10,000 to $15,000 or even more, depending on demand and competition among elite collectors. Next up, the 1964 Washington Quarter SMS Special Strike. It was a year of transition. For decades, U.S. dimes, quarters, and half dollars had been struck in 90% silver. But in 1964, as the price of silver began to rise rapidly and threaten the economics of circulating coinage, the government made a fateful decision. 1964 would mark the end of traditional silver coinage for most U.S. coins. By 1965, the quarter would shift to a clad composition of copper and nickel, effectively ending one of the last vestiges of silver in America's everyday commerce. As the mints in Philadelphia and Denver ramped up production of the final 90% silver quarters, millions upon millions of 1964 Washington quarters were struck, over 1.1 billion to be precise. Most of these coins were heavily circulated, used in vending machines, parking meters, and daily transactions, their fine details quickly worn away by countless fingers and coin counters. But hidden deep within the mists of numismatic history lies a secret. A small, mysterious group of 1964 Washington quarters exist, coins unlike any other struck that year. Coins with extraordinary surfaces, mirror-like fields, and sharp, crisp devices. Coins that would later be known as the 1964 Special Strike, or SMS, Special Mint Set Washington Quarters. For decades, the existence of these coins puzzled collectors and experts alike. They were not officially issued, nor were they intended for public circulation. They seemed to exist in a strange twilight zone between proof and business strike. Their surfaces displayed a satin-like finish, somewhat resembling modern proof coins, but with subtle differences. No frosted devices, slightly muted reflectivity, and exceptionally sharp design details. The story of the 1964 SMS coins, including the quarter, remains shrouded in mystery to this very day. Many believe they were experimental strikes produced by the Philadelphia Mint. As trial runs for the special mint sets that would be officially introduced starting in 1965. These special mint sets were intended to replace traditional proof sets, as the mint temporarily suspended proof production during the transition to clad coinage. But unlike the mass-produced SMS coins of 1965-1967, the 1964 SMS coins exist in tiny numbers. Perhaps only 12 to 20 complete sets are known to exist, each containing the penny, nickel, dime, quarter, and half dollar, all struck with this unique special finish. The most widely accepted theory suggests these sets were prepared for presentation purposes or as test pieces for mint officials. Some believe they were struck under the supervision of U.S. Mint Director Eva Adams, who was heavily involved in the transition to clad coinage and authorized many of the Mint's experimental strikings during this pivotal period. Whatever their true origin, the 1964 SMS quarters share several remarkable characteristics. Unlike typical 1964 business strikes, which often suffer from bag marks, weak strikes, and dull luster, the SMS quarters exhibit stunning detail. Washington's hair is sharply defined, with individual strands clearly visible. The eagle's wings on the reverse are full and sharp. The fields are smooth and lustrous, often with minimal contact marks, and the rims are square and well-formed. The planchets were carefully prepared, and the dies polished meticulously. Perhaps most intriguing is the fact that each known 1964 SMS quarter seems to have its own subtle differences, leading some experts to believe multiple dies may have been used for these mysterious strikes. Unlike modern proofs, which are mass-produced with consistency, these SMS coins carry slight variations that make each one feel unique, as though each was individually examined and carefully handled by mint personnel. Their rarity is breathtaking, with fewer than 24 examples believed to exist. The 1964 SMS Washington quarter sits firmly among the most coveted coins in modern U.S. numismatics. When they appear at auction, fierce bidding wars erupt among serious collectors, eager to secure one of these enigmatic treasures. In terms of collector value, these coins occupy a league of their own. Depending on condition, eye appeal, and certification, 1964 SMS quarters have sold for staggering sums. Well-preserved examples graded P6 to SP68 have brought prices ranging from $10,000 to $20,000. The finest known specimens, with nearly flawless surfaces, have realized over $30,000 at public auctions. One extraordinary SP68 example once commanded nearly $40,000, a testament to the intense demand and rarity surrounding these coins. And yet, despite their immense value and intrigue, many aspects of their production remain unanswered. The U.S. Mint has never released official documentation confirming how many 1964 SMS coins were struck or for what purpose they were originally intended. Theories continue to swirl, ranging from insider experiments to special presentation sets, gifted to high-ranking officials. Their existence has transformed the humble 1964 Washington quarter into one of the most mysterious and alluring coins in American coinage history. Next up, the 1970s Washington quarter, struck on 1941 Canadian quarter Planchet. The 1970s Washington quarter, struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter Planchet. Our story begins, strangely enough, not in the United States, but in Canada. In 1941, as the world was plunged deep into the chaos of World War II, the Royal Canadian Mint was producing its standard silver coinage. The Canadian quarter of that year was composed of 80% silver and 20% copper, a composition used widely in Canadian coinage for decades. These Canadian quarters were 2362 millimeters in diameter and weighed 5.83 grams, slightly smaller and lighter than their American counterparts. They were struck with King George VI on the obverse, as Canada was still very much a part of the British Commonwealth. Decades later, in 1970, across the border in San Francisco, the United States Mint was producing proof Washington quarters, coins destined for collectors, struck with brilliant mirrored fields and sharp design details. The composition of U.S. quarters had changed since 1965, shifting to a copper-nickel-clad alloy, completely eliminating silver from circulation coins. Yet somehow in this modern, sophisticated minting environment, something extraordinary happened. A 1941 Canadian silver quarter Planchet, nearly 30 years old, found its way into the San Francisco Mint's production line. Whether it arrived through an overlooked shipment of scrap, a batch of foreign planchets sent for experimental purposes, or simply by pure accident remains unknown. But what is certain is that this tiny foreign blank slipped undetected into the sophisticated machinery of the San Francisco Mint during the production of 1970s proof quarters. The Planchet, being slightly smaller and lighter than the standard U.S. quarter blank, was fed into the coining press and struck with the standard 1970s Washington quarter dies. The result was a coin unlike anything ever intended. A 1970s Washington quarter, perfectly struck but on an undersized silver planchet designed nearly 3 decades earlier for an entirely different nation's coinage. The diagnostics of this incredible error are unmistakable. The coin has sharply defined details due to being struck on a slightly smaller planchet, resulting in partial or missing portions of the design near the rims. The lettering and date may appear slightly closer to the edge or even truncated. More importantly, the weight, metal composition, and physical dimensions immediately distinguish it from any standard U.S. quarter struck in 1970, weighing approximately 5.83 grams, the standard weight for a 1941 Canadian silver quarter, and made of 80% silver. This coin defies everything a 1970s quarter should be. Remember, by 1970, the United States had fully transitioned away from silver for circulating coinage, and the only silver quarters being produced were special silver proofs for collectors. Not for regular 1970s clad proofs, yet this coin's silver content is authentic and verifiable. For years, this coin remained virtually unknown to the numismatic world. It eventually surfaced and was authenticated by experts, including the renowned third-party grading company Anax, which confirmed its identity and error status. The combination of its provenance, extreme rarity, and sheer impossibility has made it one of the most talked about mint errors in modern American numismatics. There is only one verified example of the 1970s Washington quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter planchet known to exist. Its absolute uniqueness makes it a dream for collectors who specialize in mint errors, off-metal strikes, and one-of-a-kind rarities. When it appeared on the market, it captured headlines across the coin-collecting world and was offered for sale with an asking price exceeding $35,000. Its mystique only grew as collectors debated how such a wild error could have possibly occurred in a tightly controlled proof coin environment. To appreciate just how bizarre this error is, you have to understand the extreme rarity of such a mistake happening in a proof set environment. Proof coins are struck with intense scrutiny, using highly polished dies and carefully prepared planchets. Quality control is far stricter than for regular business strikes. The fact that a foreign silver planchet not only entered the production stream but was struck and somehow included in a proof set, all without being detected, defies belief. The 1970s Washington quarter, struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter, Planchet has since become legendary, not just for its value but for its narrative. It represents the unpredictable, almost poetic nature of minting. Despite the precision of modern machinery, despite layers of inspection and quality control, the human element always leaves room for mystery and surprise. This coin is a testament to the idea that even in a world designed for consistency, astonishing mistakes can and do happen. Interestingly, this is not the only off-metal Washington quarter error ever discovered. Over the years, a few other Washington quarters have been found struck on foreign planchets or incorrect metals, but none quite like this. The combination of a 30-year-old foreign planchet, a proof strike from San Francisco, and the transition era timing of 1970 creates a perfect storm of rarity and intrigue. Next up, 2004 Wisconsin State Quarter, extra leaf high and low varieties. In the early 2000s, a new kind of excitement was sweeping across America. It wasn't a political movement or a new form of entertainment. It was surprisingly a coin program. The United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program, launched in 1999, ignited a level of public interest in coin collecting that hadn't been seen in decades. For millions of Americans, emptying pocket change became an adventure, as people young and old searched for quarters, representing each of the 50 states. By 2004, the program was entering its 6th year, and the state of Wisconsin took its turn to be honored on the nation's pocket change. The reverse design for the Wisconsin quarter was charming, agricultural, and deeply symbolic of the state's rich farming heritage. Designed by Alfred Maletsky, the coin featured a proud Holstein cow, a wheel of cheese, and a single ear of corn. Simple, but powerful images that celebrated Wisconsin's status as America's dairyland. But while the coin itself was meant to honor the state's hardworking farmers, something unusual was quietly happening inside the Denver Mint. A handful of these Wisconsin state quarters were being struck with an error, one that would soon become the stuff of modern numismatic legend, the extra leaf varieties. The story of these errors begins, as many mint errors do, with the dies, the steel hubs that imprint the coin's design onto blank planchets. Somewhere during the production process in Denver, an anomaly occurred. Perhaps it was accidental damage, die gouging, or even intentional modification. The result was that an extra leaf appeared on the left side of the ear of corn, on some of the quarters struck. But what makes this even more fascinating is that there were two distinct versions of this extra leaf, one positioned high up near the corn husk, and one positioned lower, closer to the base of the stalk. Thus, collectors would soon come to know these two varieties as the extra leaf high and the extra leaf low. Unlike many errors that go unnoticed for years, the discovery of the extra leaf varieties came quickly after the coins entered circulation. Reports first surfaced in late 2004, as sharp-eyed collectors began spotting the odd extra leaf while inspecting their change. The news spread like wildfire through coin forums, newspapers, and television broadcasts. Suddenly, ordinary people across the country were searching through their pocket change, hunting for these unusual Wisconsin quarters. Theories swirled about how these errors had occurred. Was it a careless mint worker using a tool that slipped? Was it a deliberate act of sabotage or mischief? Was it simply the result of a damaged or over-polished die? To this day, the U.S. Mint has never issued an official explanation, adding to the intrigue and mystery surrounding these varieties. What we do know is that these varieties are exclusive to quarters struck at the Denver Mint. The Philadelphia Mint coins were unaffected, making the extra leaf variety solely a Denver phenomenon. Based on extensive searching by collectors, it's estimated that several thousand of each variety exist and enough to create significant buzz in the hobby, but few enough to remain highly desirable and valuable. When you hold a 2004 D Wisconsin quarter under magnification, the difference between the varieties becomes obvious. On the normal version, there's only one leaf curling downward along the left side of the corn stalk. On the extra leaf high variety, a second leaf juts sharply upwards toward the husk. On the extra leaf low, the extra leaf droops downward toward the base of the ear, creating a droopy, curved appearance. From a collector's standpoint, these varieties were an instant sensation. They became one of the few modern coins to capture widespread attention both inside and outside the numismatic community. Television stations ran segments on people finding valuable quarters in their spare change. Newspapers printed headlines about ordinary Americans discovering small treasures worth hundreds of dollars right in their pockets. The market for these coins has remained strong ever since. In circulated condition, an extra leaf low typically sells for between $50 to $150, depending on where, while the extra leaf high tends to command slightly higher premiums, often ranging from $100 to $300. For nicer circulated examples, in uncirculated grades, prices rise dramatically. Mint state specimens graded MS65 or higher can sell for $400 to $1,000 or more. The finest known examples, graded MS67 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, have brought prices exceeding $1,500 at auction. The enduring appeal of the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarters lies not only in their rarity, but in their accessibility. Unlike ancient rarities or obscure colonial issues, these coins were discovered in modern circulation, available to anyone with a sharp eye and a little bit of luck. They serve as a perfect example of why modern era collecting remains so exciting. Even in an era dominated by high-tech minting equipment, surprises still slip through the cracks. Interestingly, the extra leaf varieties have also become an educational tool, drawing in a new generation of coin collectors who might never have otherwise taken an interest in numismatics. Stories of kids and families searching their change for rare Wisconsin quarters filled the hobby's forums and social media pages in the years after the discovery. This excitement helped breathe fresh life into modern coin collecting, proving that fascinating finds can still emerge even from the most seemingly routine pocket change. Next up, D9P Delaware State Quarter, Experimental Planchet Error. The year was 1999, a year of beginnings. The United States Mint was launching one of the most ambitious and wildly popular coin programs in its entire history, the 50 State Quarters program. For the first time, every state would be honored with its own unique quarter design, released in the order that each state entered the Union. Millions of Americans as collectors, kids, parents, and even people who had never cared about coins before, became swept up in the excitement of collecting each new design as they appeared in their change. The very first coin to kick off this nationwide phenomenon was the Delaware State Quarter, released on January 4, 1999. Its reverse design featured Caesar Rodney, the Delaware delegate who made his legendary 70-mile midnight ride to cast his vote for American independence in 1776, an image both heroic and steeped in revolutionary history. While most people were thrilled simply to see the new design, behind the scenes at the Philadelphia Mint something far more mysterious was unfolding. Unknown to the public at the time, a small number of 1999 Delaware state quarters were struck on experimental planchets, metallic compositions, that were not intended for normal circulation. These coins would not come to light until years later, and when they did, they would become some of the rarest and most sought-after coins of the entire state quarters series. To understand how this happened, we need to step briefly into the U.S. Mint's own internal experiments during the late 1990s. As the Mint was preparing for the future Sacagawea dollar that would debut in 2000, they began experimenting with various planchet compositions and finishes. They tested different alloys, colors, and surface treatments to ensure that the new dollar coin would have excellent durability, distinct coloring, and compatibility with vending machines. During this period of experimentation, some of these special planchets, intended for dollar coins, appear to have accidentally been fed into the presses, striking 1999 Delaware state quarters. The result was a handful of Delaware quarters that are unlike any other. Visually, these experimental quarters often display a slightly different color than the standard copper-nickel-clad quarters. Many have a warm, golden, or yellowish hue, similar to the final color of the Sacagawea dollar, but lighter. Others have a more pale champagne tone. Some have smoother or slightly glossy surfaces, leading experts to believe that not only were the compositions different, but the planchets may have also received experimental burnishing or annealing treatments. These experimental Delaware quarters are not simple toning variations. They are genuine mint errors, struck on wrong planchets using metal compositions, not authorized for circulation quarters. X-ray fluorescence tests and metallurgical analyses on several examples have revealed alloys containing manganese, zinc, copper, and nickel in proportions different from standard quarter compositions, further confirming their experimental nature. What makes these coins even more extraordinary is their sheer rarity. Fewer than 24 confirmed. Examples have surfaced across all varieties of experimental planchets for the 1999 Delaware quarter. Some estimates suggest that the total number of surviving coins across all experimental planchet state quarters, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Georgia, may not even reach 100 pieces combined. Each one is an accidental survivor of the U.S. Mint's behind the scenes testing that was never meant to reach the public. When these coins first started surfacing in the early 2000s, they caused a sensation in the numismatic community. Collectors were stunned. How could experimental materials accidentally make their way into circulation coinage? And more importantly, how many might still be out there undiscovered? The leading theory is that after experimental testing, leftover planchets were mistakenly fed into the presses producing state quarters at the Philadelphia Mint. It's possible that small quantities were mixed into regular planchet stock by error, or that experimental blanks were accidentally left in the coining machines during a transition between test runs and full production. In terms of value, the 1999 Delaware experimental quarters occupy the very top tier of modern U.S. coin rarities. Prices depend heavily on the type of planchet and condition. Well-preserved certified specimens have sold at auction for $5,000, $10,000, and even as high as $15,000 or more. The highest graded examples, those certified 66 or MS67 by professional grading companies, are among the most desirable modern mint errors in the entire numismatic market. Unlike many common errors like off-center strikes or die cracks, the experimental planchet errors are considered mint anomalies and a type of error that suggests unusual circumstances inside the mint's operations. Because these quarters bridge both the state quarters program and the experimental development of the Sacagawea dollar, they sit at a fascinating crossroads in modern U.S. coin history. Thanks for watching and happy collecting.